And we're back. I'm Jack, your British goat, and today we got the top 10 biggest draft busts in NBA history. Let's go.
9 draft picks are like a double-edged sword.
I enjoyed watching a video on
any franchise can become a contender in just a few years.
the worst number one draft picks.
They'll miss one of the
And
few
the best.
chances to make their team competitive, leaving them stuck in the mud and ridiculed by the world.
Like I said, let's
we'll talk about those instances where the GM
see the worst busts.
Here are the 10 biggest NBA draft busts ever. Number 10, Adam Morrison. Adam Morrison always looked like a really tall member of a punk band, but when he was at Gonzaga, that long hair and thin mustache was averaging 28 points per game and was a finalist for the NCAA Player of the Year. Morrison was the third draftee to shake David Stern's hand in the 2006 draft.
What team is that?
Charlotte hoped he'd be the franchise
Bobcats.
player for the next decade, but he wasn't. Morrison shot just 37% from the field as a rookie.
Wow.
It was obvious he'd
That
never
is
come close to his college numbers. It was straight downhill from there, as Adam blew out his knee in Season 2. When he returned, he was a shell of the player that once led the NCAA in scoring. He won 2 titles with the Lakers in 09 and 10, warming the bench, because that's all he was good for at that point, after which he retired at the age of 25.
Wow.
Number 9, Derek Williams. Williams was the second pick.
There's probably going to be names I have
he was drafted ahead of Kemba Walker, Klay Thompson, and Kawhi Leonard, among other players who all had better careers. Williams is a prime example of a highly athletic player who shined in college just because he was more physically talented than everybody. Once he got to the NBA, where everyone is athletic, the truth was soon out. It was ugly. Williams couldn't shoot, he couldn't dribble, and he couldn't defend. Apart from a few highlights, Williams didn't produce much and showed almost no improvements in his game. After bouncing around the NBA, he's now playing overseas, even though he's still in his 20s. Number 8, LaRue Martin. LaRue Martin was another successful college player who simply wasn't good enough for the pros. Drafted first overall in the NBA.
But how horrible that must be that, like, you are dominating in college and you think, shit, I'm the GOAT, I am incredible. And then you get to the NBA and you're like, oh, shit.
Overall in the ABA, Martin was considered the worst number 1 pick for a long time. He was selected by the Portland Trailblazers in 1972, whose scouts saw Martin in 2 college games, which was enough for them to draft him in front of future Hall of Famers Bob McAdoo and Julius Erving. When he came to the NBA, it was apparent that he could not play and that he's more suited for minor leagues. Despite being a 6'11" center, LaRue shot just 41.6% from the field for 5 points per game.
Jeez.
After 4 years, he was out of the league and retired from basketball after rejecting multiple offers from Europe. Number 7, Hasheem Thabeet. 2009 was one of the last years the NBA GMs still search for dominant centers that can battle in the post against the behemoths that were Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, or Dwight Howard. And Hasheem Thabeet, a 7'3" center, had plenty to offer to those GMs. At least on paper. He was extremely athletic and mobile for that size and length, and had half the NBA drooling over his defensive potential. Unfortunately, his basketball skills were far below his athletic gifts, and Thabeet proved to be a player with arguably the lowest basketball IQ to ever play in the NBA. Thabeet later admitted he only started playing ball after his growth spurt, and that his only interest in the game was because he thought he could get drafted and make money. Memphis wasted their second
at least he's honest.
player that never averaged more than 3.1 points in a season, and Thabeet was out of the league.
Even I would be better than that.
Number 6 and number 5, Sam Bowie and Greg Oden.
I remember the last time I shot a
1984
basketball.
Draft, Portland Trailblazers.
I was always very good at free throws.
They needed someone that could battle with Kareem and the Lakers, and they already had an all-star shooting guard, Jim Paxson, and 2 talented young wings in Clyde Drexler and Kiki Vandeweghe. So, they drafted Sam Bowie in front of 3 future Hall of Famers, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and John Stockton. Bowie's scouting report described him as an athletic rebounder, a masterful
that is atrocious,
and an extremely versatile weapon on offense, who can move well, shoot from outside, and pass better than most NBA centers.
Makes you wonder what Jordan must have been like in college to be passed up for a couple
times. He broke during his junior year at college, but Portland's officials determined it was fully healed, and that it would be a non-issue going forward. I can still remember them taking a little mallet, and when they would hit me on my left tibia.
As always, if you are enjoying this content and or me, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Take it off the full screen right now because I know that's what you're on. Go down below, hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to wait a couple seconds just to give you that opportunity. Join the GOAT squad, hit that subscribe button, let's do it. Thank you very much.
I would tell them I don't feel anything. He ended up playing just 139 out of a possible 410 games in his first 5 seasons. Despite his injuries, Bowie has had an 11-year NBA career in which he averaged 11 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 2 blocks. While Portland's reasoning is understandable, and they drafted what they needed at the time.
If he was a bench player, though, his 11 points actually
because he was drafted in front of Michael Jordan, many consider Sam Bowie as the biggest bust ever, to a little fault of his own. And 23 years later, history repeated itself. This time, Portland had the first pick, and they decided to spend it on the best center in the NCAA instead of another generational scorer. Greg Oden was supposed to be the next Shaq, and it really looked like he could be the next dominant NBA center at times. Unfortunately, those times were very short. Oden played just 82 games for the Blazers, after which multiple knee injuries have forced him to retire at the age of 22, not counting the short stint with the Heat. I'm not keen on calling Oden a bust, because the man could really play when he was healthy, but the problem is that he was never fully healthy, and that the team who drafted him...
I guess if that were height and weight every time jumping, the knees must be sharp.
Coming from Nigeria and standing at 7 feet, Michael Oluwakandi had a golden ticket to make it to the NBA. He was big, strong, and athletic, which was enough for him to bully most of his opponents in the NCAA. He dominated the Big West Conference in his senior year, with the averages of 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, and was named the Big West Player of the Year. It was enough for the Clippers to select him first overall, in front of Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, Mike Bibby, or Antoine Jamison. When he came to the league, he and everybody else soon realized that his size and athleticism could only go so far. Although Oluwakandi was a solid defensive player, he never developed any sort of offensive game, apart from open dunks and putbacks. The Candyman averaged just 8 points per game per his career on dreadful 43% shooting, which is unacceptable for any center, let alone the first pick. Number 3, Kwame Brown. At first, he was the rags to riches story, not uncommon in the NBA. Growing up surrounded by guns and violence, Kwame Brown kept his behind in the gym, and it paid off. Kwame was a fast and athletic 7-footer who was averaging more than 20 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 blocks as a high school senior. He was named the best high school player in the country and the greatest talent of his generation. He became the first high school player selected first overall, rejecting multiple offers from the NCAA, which would have been more suited for his basketball and emotional development. But there's simply no turning down Michael Jordan, and millions to come with the first pick. So he became a wizard. And once MJ decided to make another comeback, Kwame also became a teammate of the man who just drafted him, which didn't go so well for him. After an initial friendship between the 19-year-old kid and the man twice his age, who many called the GOAT, MJ started to lose his patience with Brown. He berated him at every chance he could and insulted him like he did Jerry Krause in The Last Dance. Kwame couldn't take it, and he completely lost his confidence and then never regained it. He averaged just 6.6 points, 5.5 rebounds, and half a block per game in his 12-year NBA career, frequently switching teams, with a BUSTS label following him everywhere he went. Number 2, Darko Milicic. Darko Milicic was presented to the general public as the next star big man from Europe and was supposed to follow the trend set by Dirk and Pau Gasol. The Pistons, who had the 2nd overall pick, were on the hook. They drafted Darko in front of 3 future Hall of Famers, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Coach Larry Brown had a championship team in Detroit, and there were not many minutes for Darko, who handled it very immaturely. He never worked hard in practice, partied almost daily, and when he got an opportunity to play, he pouted and isolated himself from the team. The Pistons traded him in his 3rd year, after just 96 games he played for them. While Braun, Melo, Wade, and Bosh were all averaging over 20, Darko averaged just 1.6 points, with 1.2 rebounds for Detroit. He stuck around until
I feel like I would do more than
averages of just 6 points and 4 rebounds. Number 1, Anthony Bennett. 25% of all players selected first overall make first-team All-NBA at least once, while 55% of them play in at least one All-Star game. When it comes to Anthony Bennett, not only did he not make an All-Star team, just 4 years after he got selected first overall, he was already out of the league. Far from a spectacular college player, Anthony Bennett became the first Canadian selected as the first pick of the NBA draft, to much surprise of the whole world. He was picked ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo, CJ McCollum, Rudy Gobert, Victor Oladipo, Steven Adams, and other quality players. Some will say that the burden of the first pick ruined He never developed his game due to pressure, and that moving from team to team ruined his potential. But that's simply not true. He was just plain bad. Bennett was inefficient offensively, with low basketball IQ, and he couldn't guard a chair. He shouldn't have been drafted at all, let alone with the first pick. And that's why he's the biggest bust to ever play in the NBA. Thank you for watching.
Look, is there anyone on that list that should be there? Is there anyone there that you don't think maybe they actually had an okay career? Maybe they had a very good career over Europe, but I imagine no one really gives a shit about European basketball. I certainly don't. Look, let me know what you think down below, and of course, when you're down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Hope you have a great day. Peace.